John Parker has always valued equilibrium. He had a good work as a civil engineer, prosperity, and a comfortable suburban home for his family aged 42. He was honest and dedicated in his marriage to Lisa, his high school sweetheart. Wife and mother Lisa Parker, 39, is committed. Her part-time job was graphic design, raising Emily, their only child, and working. Emily, 16, was a talented teen known for her love of music and close relationship with her parents. Parkers seemed like the perfect family. They barbecued and attended neighborhood events. They took family trips. John always felt blessed to have a loving partner and a happy child, but that changed one fateful evening. A crisp, cold night foretold winter. John came home early from work to surprise his family with a supper. He brought his grandmother's Stamus lasagna recipe's aroma. He heard laughter from within the house as he approached the front door. The sound was lovely, yet it stopped him. A sudden sound stopped him from opening the door. His quiet conversation captured his attention. A strange feeling fueled curiosity. He placed his ear to the door. He initially heard nonsensical chatter, but then he recognized Emily's excited voice. "Mom, your boyfriend's Johnson rocks. Thank you for giving me him. Get together with him next time." John was hammered by the remarks. He felt an icy ripple down his spine as his heart raced. He sensed Lisa's developing distance but never imagined such a betrayal. His thoughts raced as he tried to process what he heard. Emily spoke about her mother's partner with an uncommon closeness. Johnson's comment and Lisa's casual participation implied a closer relationship. As John moved back from the door, the lasagna broke on the threshold, shocking him. He stood there in awe, as if the universe had collapsed. He bolted from the house without looking back. He needed to think and breathe. His thoughts swirled with betrayal, wrath, and disbelief. John left abruptly and mysteriously. He left a bag of stuff and a note saying, "I can't stay, I need time to figure things out. Respect my privacy." He did not specify his destination or return date. The home, once warm and entertaining, was now eerily quiet. John's disappearance left Lisa confused and saddened for days. She searched for him but found nothing. Their friends and neighbors were also confused, and rumors arose about their mysterious disappearance. Emily stayed, silent, divided between her parents and her sins. Shame is eroding her teen bravado. John had moved to a little rented home in the woods, far from his life. He spent days alone coping with the shock and planning his next step. The grave betrayal seemed unhealable. He had always been an action man and understood that leaving was not enough. To get justice, John recruited Mark Turner, a seasoned private detective. Turner. He quickly became an invaluable ally due to his wisdom and expertise. John's request was simple: discover Lisa's relationship with her boss, Richard Evans, a wealthy and influential businessman who had recently moved to town. Turner's investigation revealed a terrifying picture. Charming and ruthless, corruption charges followed him everywhere, and his financial activities were often secret. The investigator discovered Lisa and Richard's relationship went beyond infidelity. They engaged in widespread corruption and illegal conduct. Infiltrating the community, Richard's dealings were suspect. John was astonished to learn that Lisa had deceived him and exposed Emily to this dangerous environment. Lisa's involvement with Richard jeopardized their child, and the gravity was overwhelming. Lisa's involvement in Richard's crimes was the final blow. John felt deeply lied to by his wife and the whole world he trusted. John and Turner found evidence of Richard's and Lisa's illegal activity. The technique was painstaking, but the evidence was strong. This was the last blow when John discovered Lisa had used Richard's resources to aid his criminal operations, implicating herself in several felonies. John's justice and closure drove him to act decisively. Turner gave police the information, and Richard Evans and Lisa Parker were charged with serious crimes. The media covered the case extensively. John was barely mentioned. His revenge was accomplished, but it cost many lives. Emily had to adjust to a changed reality when his family was killed. John tried to escape the chaos as Lisa and Richard fought the law. He needed to start again without his history. Betrayal hurt, but he assumed time would heal. He had no clue that this was the start of a new chapter that would test his endurance and change his view of family and forgiveness. 5 years had passed since John Parker's wife Lisa's deceit and affair with Richard Evans upended his life. Time had passed, given him time to recover, yet his prior scars lingered. John became an independent civil engineering consultant in a little town far from home. He had managed to preserve some normalcy, although his past haunted him periodically. John's new life was peaceful, unlike the pandemonium he left behind. Small-town life was soothing, a break from his stressful past, moving into a tiny house on the outskirts of town, when stillness felt comforting rather than empty. Work from home, socializing with new people, and seeking sanctuary and solitude were his daily routines. However, unresolved past issues kept him up at night and gave him fleeting recollections of happier times. John heard a door knock one beautiful fall day while sorting through his study's many records. He seldom had guests, so it was surprising. A pale, concerned young woman stood in his doorway when he responded. Her skull was shaved, and her eyes were hollow with fear and despair. John briefly misidentified her. "Dad," the woman said in a trembling voice. John's heart skipped a beat. He recognized her immediately as Emily, his daughter. The sight of her so changed from the vibrant teenager he had once known. He felt a combination of shock and remorse. John whispered, "Emily, what happened?" Emily reluctantly entered the home. Sitting on a chair, she was afraid and shivering. John hurriedly brought her drink, trembling his hands. He sat across from her, trying to comprehend the gravity of the situation. Very long tale. Emily's voice broke. "I had no idea where to go." After John's abrupt departure, Lisa struggled to cope with the consequences of her actions. Her legal troubles, coupled with the fallout from Richard's arrest, had plunged the family into chaos. With her own prospects dwindling and her finances strained, Lisa was forced to make increasingly desperate choices. Emily, now a teenager, struggled with the loss of her family's stability. Emily tried to maintain some semblance of normalcy during the turmoil. She excelled academically and clung to her music as an escape. As Lisa's financial situation worsened, she fell deeper into Richard's remaining network of corrupt associates. Emily's voice grew softer as she described a particularly harrowing period. Mom got involved with some of Richard's old associates. They weren't just criminals. They were dangerous people. They threatened us, and when Emily suffered in ways no child should have due to Lisa's actions. Details were shocking and terrible. Psychological assault and intimidation forced Emily into emotionally draining activities. Scarred. Her mother tried to protect Emily, but Richard's network hurt her. Emily continued, saying her life had spiraled further as she fled. She fled her mother's house, but with repercussions. She fled in a panic to find protection in numerous places, departing when she felt safe. She wore ragged clothes to show her anguish. Emily cried as she added, "She kept promising me everything will get better, but things simply grew worse. I had to leave to survive. I didn't know whether you'd even survive. You want to see me, but I had nowhere else to go." John's heart ached as he took in Emily's words. He had been so consumed by his own sense of betrayal and the quest for justice that I didn't want this to happen, I thought. I believed I was doing the right thing by leaving. I didn't realize how much you were suffering. Emily nodded, her expression a mix of relief and persistent anguish. "It's not your fault, Father. I only needed to find you. I wasn't sure what else to do." John grasped Emily's hand and gently held it. He saw the vulnerability in her eyes and realized that restoring their connection would be a difficult and delicate task. The journey ahead would be long and difficult, but for the first time in years, John felt a fresh sense of purpose. His kid needed his support and affection, and he was determined to give her both. "Let us start by getting you situated," John remarked, straightening up. "You're safe here now. We will work things out together. You are not alone." As they began to talk about the next steps, John realized their adventure was far from ended. The shadows of the past lingered, but they had the opportunity to carve a fresh route forward. The wounds of betrayal and the repercussions of previous grudges would need to be handled, but the link between father and daughter was a glimmer of hope in the midst of gloom. John's choice to take Emily marked the start of a new chapter in their lives, one that would test their strength and question their notion of family, forgiveness and redemption. They had both endured unspeakable hardships, but together they would confront the ghosts of their past and work to create a future free of their old lives. Emily's sudden homecoming had irreversibly shattered John Parker's tranquil life. The discovery of her suffering, along with the lingering shadows of his past, had unleashed a tempest of emotions that John tried to manage. John found solace in small victories in hearing her discuss her future goals, but they did little to ease the threats that still loomed over them. Despite his calm demeanor, John knew that Richard Evans' illicit network was far from over. Richard's incarceration had made his associates even more desperate and dangerous. Lisa's brief time in prison had done little to deter Rich. Mark said, "I've been tracking Richard's associates, and it appears they're planning something big. I'm worried they're after you and Emily." John was shocked. He had thought that eliminating Richard would protect him, but Richard's network remained a threat. Difficulties. This time, he had to take a stand. "Okay, Mark, what would you advise we do?" John asked, his voice unwavering. Mark's suggestion was realistic. "First, protect your house and ensure Emily's safety. I'll arrange for some of my contacts to provide protection for you. Meanwhile, let's go deeper into their intentions and see if we can get ahead of them." 1 week later, John and Emily were enjoying a nice evening at home when they heard a loud bang at the door. John's instincts were on alert. He looked through the peephole and saw a familiar face. Mark Turner was nervous and disheveled. "John, we have a problem," Mark said as John answered the door. "They're making a move tonight." Mark said, "I have reason to believe they are coming for you right now, and they are not alone. We don't have much time. Grab everything you can and let's go." John quickly packed a few items and made sure Emily was ready to leave. He could see her anxiety in her eyes, but he gave her a comforting smile. "We'll be okay. Please stay with me." To the safe home. John, Emily, and Mark waited anxiously in silence, their nerves frazzled by the situation's ambiguity. Hours passed and every minute felt like an eternity. Near midnight, the sound of breaking glass broke the silence. The invaders had breached the perimeter. Mark's contacts fought the assailants. The conflict faded like hours, but Mark's contacts successfully repelled the assailants, but the nightmare was far from over. Mark entered the room, relieved but somber. "They're currently gone." Mark's voice sounded exhausted. "But it's not over. We need to find out who is behind this and bring them to justice." The effort was exhausting, but they found a crucial piece of information linking the surviving colleagues to a planned attack on the safe house. The last encounter was quick and decisive. Law enforcement launched a series of raids based on the evidence to dismantle Richard's network. The arrests were widely publicized. His life with Emily, free of the threat of violence. The trauma had taken its toll on both father and daughter. They had endured unthinkable hardships, but they emerged with new strength and knowledge. Adversity had tested their relationship, but it had been reforged. John and Emily began rebuilding their lives, focusing on healing and progress, consolation in each other's presence, and built a life that reflected their perseverance and optimism for a brighter tomorrow. The final fight had been more than a struggle against external dangers. It had been a path of rediscovery and atonement. John and Emily had recovered their lives from the shadows of the past and were determined to face the future head-on.